All right. Sacred Sons, Evolving Men, Samurai Brotherhood.
Let's do this.
Adam Jackson, really great to meet you, man. Super good to have you on my show. I'm stoked to get to know you. This is our first meeting. Some guys, you know, I first meet them and I feel like I already know them. I feel like I already know you. We're in similar fields. I've just been tracking you and tracking the work that you're doing with Sacred Sons for a long time, and I think a lot of my listeners probably feel the same. So
Yeah,
it's
man.
about time. Yeah.
It's time. It's always time. And one of the things I like to say is that there's no teams in men's work. There's one team, and that is the evolution of conscious, healthy, honest masculinity on this planet. So we're on the
Mm.
same team. We're in this together, Ben. It's good to meet you as well.
Yeah, man. The mission of evolving men's consciousness. So yeah, why don't we start just talking about Sacred Sons and what you're doing with those guys? What's your mission with them? What are you excited about with Sacred Sons?
Yeah, Sacred Sons was co-founded by myself, Albert Bastia, and Jason McKenzie. We came together in 2018 officially under the banner of Sacred Sons. And prior to that, I was hosting family gatherings. So out in Joshua Tree, out in the desert, doing these family retreats. And Albert, he was coming in to do some shadow work, and J Mac came in. Back then he was with the Mankind Project, so he was hosting the men's circles within this family gathering. And what we all three noticed at that time, this was like back in 2016. What we noticed
Mm.
then was that men weren't ready. Like the women had it. They were circling up in red tents, and they had a certain level of consciousness, but guys were coming to these events and they just weren't quite there. So we came together and we're like, hey, men need this work. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And I'm only going to do it if it's diverse, if it's honest, if it's real, if it's authentic, and if it's cool. Because like honestly, I was invited to plenty of men's gatherings. I'm in different communities, from Lakota community where I sit in a Nipi ceremony to ayahuasca communities, and you know one of the things about the men's space that I found was that it wasn't diverse, and that it wasn't like truly calling in all men.
Mhm.
I didn't actually see that, and I feel Sacred Sons is doing just that. What I'm most lit up about, like just like as in a from a high level, is brotherhood, is authentic
Mhm.
brotherhood, connection, relating, being there, and then like all the networking and all the magic happens beyond that. But what we're creating with Sacred Sons is a place where men belong and where men can belong. And I can tell you from my personal experience, like I'm saying, being invited to other men's circles where it was like it didn't feel like that. It didn't feel
Mhm.
like it was a space for all men, that truly all of myself was welcome in those spaces. And so that's one of the pieces that I've really chosen to instill within Sacred Sons. When men come into our space, all of you is welcome. All of
Uh-huh.
you is welcome. And so, we don't call our work men's work these days. We've always led with masculine alchemy. And anyone who identifies as a man, anyone who's willing to step in
Mm.
and work on their masculine, that's who we're calling in. And so it's really grown since those early days, and would love to speak more about like the actual offerings. So
Yeah, I want to hear that from you. So I love this concept of inviting all men as well as all of the man or the person who's in front of you. How Yeah, my worst fear for my men's community that I'm a part of is for it to be homogenous.
yeah.
Like my ultimate ideal is that it's very diverse and that there's like a diversity of opinions, and we get that from time to time in a group where some guys get upset that other guys have different opinions and like we got to do something about this, and I'm like, wait a minute, like no, what we actually need to do is learn how to be with each other despite our differences. That's how
Boom.
you
Yes.
right.
Yes.
So how do which is why I let like COVID or politics come up from time to time in my group meetings, because I want to see how the men are practicing respecting and loving one another despite maybe thinking the other guy's crazy. Like his idea is just, you know. It just doesn't
And it
understand.
might not even be
Right.
an idea, Ben. Sometimes it's the embodiment of that man. We've
Mm,
literally had cops and former criminals in our spaces. You know,
right.
it doesn't even have to be over a thought or an idea. It could just be like, who you are fucking triggers me. Like the
Yep.
fact that you're a cop and you're here and you're in this cave and we're doing this work together fucking can be terrifying for someone who is potentially like abused or, forcefully hurt by police. And we've had those men in those spaces, and we really, like, my role in this is really genuinely calling that in, because I am an embodiment of that, right? So when we talk about embodiment, right? Like I'm biracial. My mother's white, my father's black, so I come from two culturally different backgrounds. So like as I my mission in calling that in is super authentic to me, right? And men
Yeah.
believe me. This is why I believe Sacred Sons has been able to achieve that level of diversity. It's me, it's Albert, it's Kareem, it's Joe Spariton in Utah. It's my brother Elliot, who is that police officer turned bounty hunter who I'm referencing, because this is a real thing that happened. And by
Yeah.
the way, those men who had that charge, where there was a brother who was like, yeah, man, I had a cop put a foot on my neck, and he released this charge to, I'm sorry for saying names. I shouldn't really say names, and due to keeping things
Confidential. Yeah.
confidential. But, um, like now these men are connected. These men have moved through that energy. They're actual brothers. They actually call and check in on each other. And this
Mm-hmm.
is the work, and this is the mission of Sacred Sons. Like, it's for all of us to humble ourselves. It's for all of us to acknowledge the things that we don't know. It's for all of
Uh-huh.
us to get connected back to our spirits, back into our bodies, and back to the earth itself. This is the
Mm-hmm.
work of Sacred Sons. This is where we're going with it. And all of those other concepts and right and wrong and all that stuff, we squash that shit immediately coming into our space. And we've been able to do that through our embodiment.
Uh-huh. I'm an addictions counselor, an addictions coach, and I work with that population a lot. I've seen what that sickness looks like in a person, and we all see what that sickness looks like at a population level,
Mm-mm.
and we see other forms of illness like depression, anxiety, all forms of mental illness afflicting people. And interestingly, like as we've become more and more comfortable as a society, as the poorest among us have been brought up a bit, um, the world's basically never been safer, believe it or not,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
uh, Mental illness and addiction is like it continues to rise. Suicide continues to rise. And why is that? Why do we have so much? Well, what is addiction? Addiction at its root is a disconnection from self and community.
Exactly.
So, and so is depression. Like, you feel totally untethered from the life force, and you
Yeah.
don't want to live, And so the opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction
It's
is
connection.
connection.
That's exactly
Yeah.
right.
So this is why for me the mission, this mission of carrying men's work or masculine alchemy, I love that term, to as many individuals as possible, is if it fits in line with like my life's mission, right? Which is create as much connection to self and connection to community as I can. Because
Yeah.
that, if we're going to heal addiction, if we're going to heal mental illness, we need to figure out how to connect better with each other and
Yeah.
move past the differences, right? Move past the differences of opinion, or the differences of, status. You're a cop, I'm a criminal, and see the humanness in each other,
Right.
and we have to create the space for that to occur, you know,
Yeah.
and that occurs best in like a sacred space, a safe space,
Yeah. How often
right?
as men do we get the opportunity to lay it down, to peel back the layers of resistance that we have towards one another? Like when you come into a Sacred Son space, no one's asking you what you do for work right off the jump. No one's asking you how much is in your bank account. In fact, those are like the last conversations we have. And
Mm-hmm.
truly, um, there's an awareness piece here. Like, okay, we have to have an awareness that people are disconnected, and that we are trying to get reconnected. But then after that, it's like awareness isn't going to solve the problem. Are you willing to confront this shit? Are you willing to
Hmm.
have a difficult conversation? Are you willing to put your ideas and maybe even your deepest beliefs like to the side and really witness someone else in theirs? Like, so there has to be not only the awareness, but the willingness to step into that space and be confronted with your shadow, with other shadows, with whatever it is that's preventing you, me, us as a collective from this evolution of consciousness, which what I'm saying is the ultimate goal here, right? And so
Hmm.
it's not just about men doing this work or women doing this work. It's like communities doing this work. What I'm after ultimately is a concept and a deep feeling of collective embodiment, that when I walk down the street and I look another man in the eyes, like, cool, like I can see you, we can see eye
Uh-huh.
to eye. And what I see happening right now is like deep tribalism, uh, lots of divisiveness being pumped by the media, right? This is just what's going on right now. And
Yeah.
like, I'm
Let's
not
talk
willing,
about it.
I'm not willing to be a part of that. You know what I'm saying? I'm here for unity. I'm here for that connection, for that peace that belongs to us. And I like to say this, like this work, brotherhood, it belongs to us. I know it. It's deep in my bones. Generations of men have known this for hundreds of thousands of years, 200,000 years
Hmm.
specifically. And so
Yeah.
like that belongs to us, and it's up to us to reclaim that.
Hmm. Yeah. And as individuals, we have to be willing to do that work and to, choose how we want to respond to fear, for instance.
Yeah.
Like right now, yeah, I know where you are. There's lots of division, and in Canada, there's like there's vaccine passports happening, and you've got families like, I have a friend. Her family called and said, "Hey, don't come to the wedding. You're not invited
Wow.
because you're not vaccinated." Basically, you're out of the family until you
Right.
get vaccinated. That's like one of 100 things I've seen just in the last month. And I'm seeing groups of men as well doing this,
Yeah.
right? And that my initial response to that is to make those people an enemy. Like, I'm afraid I'm going to be ostracized. I'm afraid I'm going to be judged. I feel I'm being judged. I feel I'm being shamed. And what I want to do is fight back.
Mm.
I want to make them the enemy. I want to find out where they're wrong. I want to prove them wrong, right? And can I resist that? Can I stand in my integrity and continue to be love and be, extend for connection
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just allow that to be so without becoming a part of the problem? Because in my opinion, the problem is fighting. The
Yeah.
problem is making people enemies,
Well, and the
right?
solution to that is a big word here called discernment. Do you have the ability to discern for yourself from a sovereign place, um, what is real for you? And I find right now a lot of people are outsourcing their discernment to the media and
Uh-huh.
to um, a group of people who are collectively pumping a particular narrative.
Yeah.
And so like, can we as men get together and use our discernment and find out what's real here? I think it's our responsibility to do that. Like I was having a conversation with a brother earlier. I'm like, man, the darkness, like if we're speaking those terms, they're working really, really hard. And the
Yeah.
light needs to be working just as hard, it maybe even harder. And it's interesting because the light needs to be able to find the light. And that's why it's important. I'm here to
Mhm.
shout out all my love for Sacred Sons, but it's not just about Sacred Sons, man. This is about all of our communities, like really seeing each other, getting out of our own way, getting the egos out of the way, and coming together and having a collective representation. Because that's like the trajectory where we're going. Our voices are being suppressed. There's a lot of people hating on JP Sears or Spears, whatever. Like
Right.
because he's very outspoken, and you know
Hmm.
I'm not necessarily on that tip where it's like, well, let me just rewind there. There's a lot of people speaking to it, right? And it's
Yeah.
our job as these communities to use discernment to find out what's real for us, and then to have the courage to speak out about it.
Uh-huh. And figure out how to stay connected within all of it.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
another thing that's come up for me is I've got a guy. who's close to me, and his he's been mentally drifting away from his men's group that he meets with regularly for a while. And we went for a walk, and I was like, "What are you working on in your life?" And he's like, "I want closer, deeper relationships with men. I want a better group of men." And on the other side of that is that, like, the group of men that he's meeting with, he's finding himself pulling away from, and he's like, he's got judgments, and he's having personality conflicts with guys, and he wants to leave. Right. So the context of our talk was like, okay, well, should you leave this group if your work right now is to work on, like, being intimate with other men and, like, having deeper relationships with other guys? Like,
Right.
maybe your work is right in front of you with these guys who you don't see as an ideal group for you to do this work with. Like, can you do it? Can you step forward and do the difficult thing? Because your mind could just be tricking you at this time. It could just be playing out the same old pattern
Exactly.
of isolation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, for a situation like that, it's like we're all students and we're all teachers. And while it maybe feel true for him, like, okay, it's time to move on from the group, how can you close it in an appropriate way? I'm about, like, closing lately. Like,
Uh-huh.
even if that's you've, like, dug deep and this is what you believe to be true, how do you close a situation in a good way that lets everyone know that you still have love for them, that you still care for them, and that this is what's best for you at the moment? And
Hmm.
and
Right. It's
at,
like
and
the
then
the the
yeah, go ahead.
default. The default tends to be ghosting, like just disappearing because we
Totally.
don't know how to close, or create a conflict that creates a problem and breakdown, and then we can leave.
Oh
Like, I think
man,
guys do that with
guys love to
romantic.
self
Yeah.
sabotage, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, yeah, it's important that when we make those decisions, that we do close in a good way. And sometimes when we go through the process, the actual logistical steps of what it means to close a relationship or to move on, um, some more truth might come in there. Like, some more medicine may be in that group for him, whether he's there to receive or whether he's there to give. You know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
so much opportunity. Can you find the gold? And it, once again, you were talking about, responding from fear. Is he responding from a place of fear or responding from a place of love for these brothers in this group that's
Hmm.
supported him this far? Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you're talking about closing properly, because it's in a death phobic culture,
Yeah,
we
exactly.
we're not good at closing, because every closing is like a micro death. We don't know how to end things. I can't
Yeah.
tell you how many jobs I worked at where a person would just disappear,
Yeah.
and you'd ask management, like, where'd they go? And they'd say, this blank so and so is no longer with us. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Where did he go?
We wish them well in their future endeavors.
Yeah, right.
Like, oh, cool. Okay, cool. I learned this when I played in a band for 10 years. I was in a metal band called 12 Tribes, from the age of 17 to 27. Toured the world, went to Europe.
Cool.
Um, you know, so many blessings came out of that. And when we split up, it comes a time in every band's life, right? My
Yeah.
guitar player had a family he had to support. My bass player was getting married. Metal's a young man's game. But when we played our last show, and then it was like we just kind of went our separate ways, and we never really celebrated the fact that we had 10 years of being together, of, like, being on stages together, of having all of these experiences. And, like, some people left with resentments not being able to be cleared. And, like, I moved to California, from Ohio, where I'm originally from. And I had this long lasting kind of stagnant feeling, like, damn, there was something to be celebrated there. And that's one of the core tenets of the work that we do in Sacred Sons now, is like, can we celebrate it? Can we
Mm.
celebrate the wins? Can we celebrate the losses and the learning? Can we celebrate the fact, that we just did a thing and now it's come to a close, and be, like, okay with that? This is a piece that I think is good for all of us, for society in general. Like, this, we should be teaching kids how to do this as well, right? Like,
Yeah.
bringing them in, learning how to close friendships. You ever had those friendships that just went away and you never had the chance to express any amount of gratitude? Like, men, brothers who are listening to this, if, I don't know what you're going to take away from this conversation, but if you want to take away something, find out what you're grateful for. Write one thing down, write one person down. Who needs to receive your gratitude that you haven't been able to express it to?
Mm-hmm.
This is healthy and honest masculinity. This is a way that we can begin to feel again. It's a way that we can begin to get connected to like the authenticity of our experiences together. And
Mm-hmm.
so like we're talking about closing, but that gratitude piece and that celebration piece is so important. And I'm going through one right now. We had a retreat center on Maui. We were renting this home for 14 months. We did a bunch of amazing Sacred Sons Prime events. Through
Oh, cool.
COVID, we were doing small little 10-man retreats, and so the home got sold, and we all kind of went our separate ways from that place. We still have a home on Maui, and we're doing even smaller gatherings there. But it was like we had this closing happen, and it's like we're all saddened by it. We're all okay. What's next? And the thing that we all wanted to do was run our separate ways and figure out like what's next. Where am I going? What's the next place before we actually close down this experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to call that in. If you find yourself in the midst of a transition, have the authority over yourself to be able to call that in, so that chapters can fully close.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I wish I had messaged you guys because I think I was in Maui at the same time as you last winter.
Yeah.
But you're speaking about like what keeps coming up for me is the lover archetype, and how important it is to nurture that and try to bring that to life. I think the lover archetype in Western society is very much just in the shadows.
Mm.
There's very little mature, authentic expression of the lover, and part of that comes up in this sort of celebration of beginnings, of endings, of middles, wins, like really learning to celebrate.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many friends I know who, when it's time to celebrate, they get uncomfortable
Right.
because their parents taught them that that type of celebration was just like it's too much because they weren't allowed to celebrate. They were taught like no, that's you're just out of line
Right.
if you're in your lover. It's all warrior all the time. You should be either like always being productive and doing something in the world, or maybe magician, just studying and just like super in your head.
Yeah, but the lover is the essence of the soul. The lover is the essence of the mission. The lover is what is informing us of like what are the natural gifts we have to offer, and how can we, um, in a beautiful way, like how can we express those to the world? And yes,
Yep.
the warrior's like there to protect that inner boy, to protect that inner essence, right? And he's actually enacting a lot of the boundaries, setting the boundaries that we need for the lover's essence to be felt. But
Hmm.
our warrior, like you're speaking to, gets a little misconstrued, and our magician starts to take over, and then the lover becomes addicted, and the lover
Uh-huh.
turns to sex, and the lover turns to drug addiction and porn addiction, and all of these different ways that we can be consumed because we're suppressing that little boy, right?
Yep. Yeah, or impotence, right? That's the other shadow pole. It's just like going totally flat, like
It's a good point.
without that essence of the lover, it, the other sides of a person feel dead. Like it really is the sort of life force
Mm,
behind everything. So I really love how you guys with Sacred Sons, you spend a lot of time, it seems like, in that sort of e- emotional space, but also just like all kinds of other expressions,
yeah,
like dancing and movement and,
yeah. I can tell
hands
you.
on each other, contact. It's like a lot of times it looks like you guys are just on MDMA, just like cuddle puddles.
That's exactly why we say brotherhood is the medicine. That's the medicine we're on, truly. And
Yeah.
what happens is on the other side of the confrontation, that the hard conversation is a massive celebration. It's a big win for all of us. And so we do spend a lot of time, around the fire, dancing, singing. As Sacred Sons, like anyone who's come into our spaces knows, we have original songs for Sacred Sons that came through the Brotherhood around fires that we've been singing for years. That
Hmm.
we're actually going to make an album. We're going to just put them out as Brotherhood Anthems Volume 1 coming soon. But we have these anthems that have come from the clarity of that inner lover, of that inner essence from men, and they sing them out around the fire. We're all singing them together. We're all celebrating together. It's a big part of this work. And I just want to say, like, our brothers need to be celebrated. Our brothers need to be lifted up. You see a lot of men being raised up in our photos. This is a common thing in men's work these days. But like, really, man, like we're here to raise each other up, you know. But in
Mm.
order to get to that place, we have to be willing to go through the shit. We have to be willing to look at ourselves. And so, yeah, I don't know exactly what the perception is from the outside in, because I'm so close to it. You know, I don't know what the perception of Sacred Sons is, but I can guarantee you our spaces are diverse, they're alive, they're very real. And at the end of the day, man, we are dancing, we are celebrating, and there's a little bit of cacao in there too.
Cacao is a nice, gentle, heart opener medicine. That's the only substance that we had at my wedding.
Nice.
Yeah, and I spoke about MDMA, and there is like, yeah, there's a piece there around how, there are these substances that kind of like can open you up,
Mm-hmm.
and if you're listening to this and you've had profound moments of connection on MDMA, or
Yes, I have.
profound moments of connection while you're drunk, like, it's a little different when you're drunk, but it's funny, the things that come out of people when they're drunk, the honesty that sometimes spews forth when the filters are no longer there.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like inconsiderate, angry stuff. But other times it's like, man, I want you to know I love you so much, man. Like, I don't say it enough. Like, I
That,
really love you.
but why?
Right.
Why does it take until you're inebriated? Why does it take until you have
Yeah.
the pills, right? So in a contrast to yourself, I believe, you know, I grew up straight edge. I was absolutely drug and alcohol free until the age of 31 when I started
Mm.
my plant medicine journey. And so even through those years of touring and being in a band, I never drank, I never got high or anything like that. And
Mm.
so I really cultivated that within myself. Like, how can I get to these places and spaces and be able to feel as lit as everybody else? But the realization is that we are the drugs. All of
Yeah.
those chemicals are only triggering things within ourself and our own bodies that already belong to us. Again, if it's about belonging, your joy, your pleasure, your happiness, your pain, it belongs to you. And so while those mechanisms are great, and yes, I have enjoyed MDMA, you know, wonderfully, especially in romantic partnership. It's actually a tool my partner Hannah and I have used in the past before our son was born. But and it can be a great tool for that. But the truth of the matter is when we're connected, those feelings are accessible. Those
Mm-hmm.
highs, those moments of being lit, and they're so much better when it's clear. And they're so much better when I can look at my brother in the eyes and be like, bro, I love you. Thank you for your experience, your wisdom, your teachings, your embodiment. Thank you. And to know that that's coming from me. It's not coming
Mm-hmm.
from the mushrooms. It's not coming from the alcohol. It's not coming from those drugs. It's coming from brotherhood, because
Yeah.
brotherhood is the medicine.
The medicine. 100%. 100%.
But
Yeah.
that's why we came up with that saying, because people will be so lit at our gatherings. Truly, we were
Yeah.
celebrating, like, wow, like, what is this? And that's what it came is. It was like,
Uh-huh.
and trust me, listen, I sit in medicine circles, as I mentioned earlier, and I can honestly say this has been the biggest teacher for me. This has been the best medicine, because it comes from that space of clarity, because it
Uh-huh.
comes from that space of connection. A lot of the plant medicine ceremonies, while they're in community, are still an individual experience. And so that
Yes.
collective embodiment, that collective experience, that collective raising up of all the ships, that is like, it's the most beautiful ceremony I've ever been a part of.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Yeah. I did a bunch of drugs and alcohol in my teens, went to rehab, went to AA 12-step programs for 15 years, became an addictions
Yeah.
worker,
Yeah.
totally clean and sober other than smoking, coffee, video games for 15 years. Um,
Yeah.
but had to learn the same thing as you, how to show up in a way where I'm sort of bringing more of myself through. Like, I can't cheat, it's like alcohol, MDMA, any substance can be a bit of a cheat to sort of get yourself to a place, um, or a teleportation, let's say. And then right around the same age as you, like 30, found plant medicine work and started doing that work there.
Yeah.
And I agree. It's like, it's just an entirely different experience. You're doing like stuff on the spiritual plane there, but learning learning how to get to that place where the honesty is spewing out of you, where your honest, your truth is just coming out of you in a, you know, unaltered place. Uh, that's possible. It's just, and it's beautiful. Like that is the medicine.
Yeah.
It's just not, it's not set up in the society. We're a highly traumatized, highly divided people with, a dark history, and everybody's carrying all kinds of like wounding, and like our entire generation was left to just cry it out when we needed our parents. Like there's like dozens of things you could mention that you're like, oh, okay, like no wonder you guys are messed up. um and we're not taught how to be in relationship. We're not taught how to be in brotherhood in school.
Yeah.
The best thing that maybe we get is like a sports team, where you learn to have each other's back on the field, but it's not there. So we need to go to these spaces. Like if you're listening to this and you feel that calling, like, yeah, I want something more than this, just the daily runaround out here.
Yeah.
I want to feel that sense of aliveness that Ben and Adam are talking about. Go and find a men's group, or go and find some kind of an intentional community that their mission is to create this medicine, this connection between people. It'll be the best thing you ever do.
Man, it's priceless. Truly. That level of experience is, it's like, yes, it belongs to us, and it's like, I've had so many men leave our experiences like, this was the best weekend or experience of my life. And just as other substances, this medicine of brotherhood, there can be there needs to be integration, because there can be a huge contraction from it. You're like, wow, I'm
Hmm.
immersed in this connection. I finally am myself for the first time. I cried for the first time in fucking 10 years, whatever it is, whatever release or transmutation happened, whatever type of healing is happening. And then you go back and it's like, damn, now I'm back in my isolated box. And so Sacred Sons has put a lot of effort into maintaining our brotherhood in between events, because it's not always about showing up on a weekend, right? Like, how do we keep that essence of the brotherhood and of the lover going in our own lives? And so we created our own brothership, which is a like a back end channel and an app where it's private, and it's our own community group. We have calls on there weekly, for men to show up to. And what I've seen happen from that is that men maintain those relationships. And I've said this before, but like, one of the biggest challenges I've seen with men over 30, they don't have friends.
Hmm.
Period.
Yep.
It's like simple shit, man. It's like, oh, you don't have friends? Well, let's get you connected to some like-hearted individuals. Maybe you can start having some fucking friendships in your life again after
Yeah.
20 years.
Yep.
Stop putting all this shit on your wife and your kids, and start talking to your fucking brothers. Let's go.
Let's go.
It's
Yeah.
simple shit, bro. It's really simple stuff, and it's important because of what you said. We weren't taught. We were actually taught the opposite. We were taught to lone wolf it. We were taught we had to carry it alone. We were taught we had to do it all on our own. And so
Mhm.
what we are just raising the curtain for a lot of these brothers is like, no, man, you don't have to do it alone. Like, that big project you got, that big win that's right over that ridge, let us fucking support you. Tell
Yep.
us, unload it. Let's raise you up so you can get there. And guess what? When you get there, when you have the big win, you'll look back and we'll be fucking cheering for you, because that's not
Yeah.
the world we were raised in. And so it's important that we begin once again to like embed that into our culture as men. And make no mistake, men are creating and informing culture constantly.
Hmm.
Women are informed by nature. Women are on the cycle of the moon. Women are in their essence, the feminine is highly attuned to nature, and men within the masculine, it is highly attuned to culture, right? And so it's
Hmm.
up to us as men in this year 2021 right now to create a new culture that has embedded within it this type of connection. Because
Yep.
the culture that I see is like, and we could talk about initiations, but men are initiated through alcohol, through like, I'm 16, I get to drive a car. Like, oh, cool, I'm 21, I get to drink and smoke now. It's like,
Yep.
these are not true initiations. These are
Yeah.
bypasses.
Yeah. You just do some stupid shit. Like that's how you initiate yourself. You get into some trouble and, hurt, break something, or create a story
Yeah. And then
that
before you know it, a man becomes a father and he's like, fuck,
yeah
like, I don't know what to do here. I don't know how to support a mother, a new mom through having our first child, like, and that can be even more isolating.
yeah.
I have experience in my own life with
Y-
that.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. I want to get into fatherhood in a sec. Yeah, as a coach, when I'm doing an assessment with the guy, no matter what problem, I don't only deal with guys who have an addiction to deal with. I also help guys with relationships, or they want to learn what men's work is, right? What's men's alchemy. When I do an inventory on the guy's life and I ask him to just rate 1 to 10, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, socially,
Yeah.
where are you at with all of those? Socially is usually the lowest rank. Like, how is that possible?
Yeah. Well, because you're
And
spending all day at work hustling to make
yeah,
the money, to make the rent, to pay the bills, and before you know it, you've lost sight of what's most important.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So we need to learn to give that some energy, even though it might not make us money right away, or it might, it's which is funny though, because it eventually does. Like, when you improve the quality of your relationships, your connections are better, your energy is better, you have more fire to like create what you actually want to create in your life. You have people behind you pushing. Like, I've seen so many men level up exponentially as a result of creating those relationships, and myself included. This podcast wouldn't exist if my men's group hadn't lit me up and said, dude, stop it with your Airbnb business. You got to
Mm,
do more than that, you know?
yeah.
And I was like, they're right, and so here I am. My life has changed.
Yeah, man. And so there's two men speaking about this right now who have both had their lives improved, individually and collectively, right, by doing this type of work. And what did I want to say here? Yeah, man. I guess one of the things I could just say from this place that I'm most proud of within Sacred Sons is I'm 41 years old, and I have some of the closest brothers and friendships and relationships that I've had, more than any other time in my life. And I don't know how many guys in their 40s can truly say that. And I'm talking about men I can be honest with. I'm talking about men that can see my blind spots and fucking tell me. I'm talking about brothers who can see when I'm off of the path of my purpose and off the path of my mission. It can help me like recalibrate. That's the kind of shit that's important. And what we were speaking to earlier, how does that happen? It's like, yeah, man, guys get sucked into the cycle and into the system of like just going to work. And I'm also, I was in a band, but after that I have a 12-year career as a mechanical engineer and project manager. So I know
Mm-hmm.
that world too, man. I know what it's like to sit in a
Yeah.
cubicle and fucking float and collect a
Yeah.
paycheck, And so
Yeah.
I can identify with those guys who are on that grind, and I can tell you there's something over here that you need to check out. You got to come see,
Yeah.
you have to come see this because like I said, that man
Yeah.
who I'm going to keep the confidentiality and not say any names, but there literally was a brother who I'm close to, and he came to one of our experiences and he literally hadn't cried in 10 years. He remembered the last time he cried. And so we did some processing, and we got him over the hump, and it fucking, once it starts, man, it doesn't stop. Once you unlock that aspect of yourself, it's almost like it's like unlocking cells in the body. Like, whew, there's a certain amount of freedom that comes with it. But he reflected to me like, man, I didn't realize like how sucked into this matrix, I'll call it, that
Mm-hmm.
that he really was, and like how disconnected he was from his family because he wasn't able to show them his emotions. He wasn't able to like connect with them on that level, and to like to play and to get vulnerable in that space, right? So we're
Yeah.
unlocking this potential within our brothers, and I think that this is what's needed. I think that this is what the world is asking from men at this time, and
Yeah.
to recognize that this vulnerability is not a weakness. It's a
Yeah.
superpower. It's a
It's a
fucking
super.
it's a
Yeah.
super strength. And when we recognize that, like, watch what happens to the collective culture here. Watch what
Hmm.
happens to the culture once we realize that that vulnerability is strength.
Yeah. We wake up, we become fully alive. Like when you're 41, I assume you start thinking about, how am I going to live a long life? I'm not done here yet. And I feel like I'm getting a little old. How do I, what life extension becomes something that's sort of in your consciousness from
Mm-hmm.
time to time? And if you look at people who live a long time, one of the number one factors is the quality of their relationships
Yeah.
and their sense of meaning and feeling connected to a community. In Okinawa, that's how it is. Like people don't retire in Okinawa, Japan. There's one. It has they have like 10 times more centenarians there than in most other places in the world, and there's a sense of community there that's super unique. And people are contributing and feel like they're a part of the community until the day they die. And
Yeah.
well into their hundreds, they're still sort of doing stuff, and they're always welcome. And there's this sense of connection. If you look at our culture, that there isn't that. That's not naturally there. We need to create that ourselves. Yeah,
Yeah.
we
And
need to create it.
we're up against it's an uphill battle truly because there are so many distractions for us right now at this time, right? Like the phone is a fucking huge distraction. What's going
Yeah,
on in the world around us is a huge distraction. The whatever it is, the video games, right?
yeah,
And there's a sense when we're in community that those distractions start to quiet and the relationships start to amplify. And the love and the connection between us is so much more interesting than this post or than this game or than this or that, whatever that distraction is. And that's a part of our human nature that we actually have to do work in reclaiming. We have to reclaim our
hmm,
attention, truly.
yeah,
Like, where
yeah,
is your attention going, man? And that's what it is. This is all, like, I preface by saying this is all simple stuff, but it's simple, but it's not easy. It takes work. It takes devotion. It takes dedication. And yeah, I think for me, fatherhood is a part of that piece that reawakened that within myself. You know what
yeah.
I mean?
So
Like it's right there. It's always on the tip of my tongue because that's when I really got shaken up. Like, oh, what am I doing here? Like, I want my children to be raised up with strong brothers and sisters around, with community around, with play
yeah,
embedded into our daily lives, and with my presence as a man, as a father, as a friend, as a lover to be felt. Because, you know, my if I'm just here to be honest, like my attention would go to ganja. I love smoking
mhm.
weed. I'm not gonna lie. My attention goes to my phone. I got like 5 chess games going on my phone right now. you know, but in opposite of that, like my son Noah, who's 6, about to turn 7, like him and I play chess. So like, how can I get rid of some of these distractions and bring my attention to what's important, that's informed by the culture that I am creating within my own family?
Mhm. Yeah, and so you're talking to a guy who I'm 37.
Yeah,
I'm married. We don't have kids. She's not pregnant. And we're like hanging out on the sidelines here, and we're looking at the world, and
yeah,
we're like, geez, it's pretty crazy out there. And we're looking at our energy levels, and we're like, oh, do we really, it's a big investment. It's the biggest investment of your life. And then, so like I have these two sides pulling on me, right? Which is the like, yeah, it's a lot of work, and like, geez, it's a crazy world. There's like 7 billion of us out there already. And then there's the other side of me that's like doing men's work all the time. And like, I went for a walk when I was walking with this buddy to talk about whether he should stay in the group or not. We came across the neighbor's kid. He's 5, and he had his bike, no training wheels, and mom and dad were with him. And we were like, "Hey, buddy," his name's Ben too, which is
Mhm.
awesome. And we're like, "Hey, Ben, you gonna no training wheels, hey?" And his dad said, "You want to show him what you got, bud?" And he was like, "Yeah." And so off he goes down this sort of gravel path. And he's looking down, and we're like, "You gotta look up, Ben. Look up." He like looks up, but he starts to wobble, and then bam, he bails, goes down on his elbow, and mom looks at us and goes like, "All right, well, we're gonna deal with him. See you guys later." And we were like, "No way!" So we just walked up to him, Dad had picked him up and we were like, hey man, how'd you do? And he's crying. He's like, I don't ever want to ride a bike again. We're like, wait. Let me show you my scars. I start showing him my scars, and
Yeah.
my buddy shows him his huge scar on his leg. He's like, I had to have surgery on that one. That was from biking. Like, hey, this stuff happens, bud. And he's like, really? And we were like, did it feel good? Were you doing good before you crashed? He's like, yeah. We were like, that's all that matters. You did great. You got to get back on the bike when you feel better. We all get scraped up. And he's like, really? And his dad starts showing his scars. And we turned him around from, where he started in about 60 seconds.
Yeah.
And then we were like, see you later. And I got so lit up from that interaction. Like I grabbed my buddy and hugged him. I was like, man,
That's
you
what
see
it's
what we
about.
did there?
That's what it's
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. So I have that side of me too that's like, oh, like I just want to love up a little being,
Yeah.
So, should I do it or shouldn't I,
So,
Adam?
here's the thing. I respect everyone's position on this. Like, if you know you want to have kids, yes, I'm for you. If you know you don't want to have kids, yes, I'm for that too. But here's what I'll say is what's on the other side of that fear is your own capacity to grow. And there's a funny thing. There's some certain cultures that they don't take men seriously until they have children. Because you could run around, use your energy doing all kinds of shit until you have kids, and like you're holding it down for like you really don't know the depth of humility. Like until you have somebody breaking your favorite paintings, crystals, someone just like someone literally shitting on you, bro. Like my son's literally shit on my chest before. Okay, like until you have that, your capacity to hold space and to like hold yourself as an individual is questionable. And the beautiful part is we all have that capacity. Your heart, Ben, is going to grow like 10. You want to 10x your bank account. Your heart's about to 10x when you bring a life through. We talked about raising consciousness. We're literally raising the consciousness of these beings. And so what I think about is like, think about all the love you've felt in your life, all the experience, all the travel, all the pain, all the heartbreak. Like to be able to pass on this gift of life is the ultimate mission. We're pre-programmed as human beings to want that, to desire that.
Yeah.
And so what happens is our capacity to hold the space, our capacity to create time, our capacity to get clear with our attention and where it goes. And listen, I hold a lot, bro. I got a podcast. I got a Brotherhood. I have weekends where I'm away from the house that I go and facilitate. I just came back from a leadership training in Colorado, 2 weeks ago. And so when
Looked
I'm,
awesome, by the way. Yeah.
oh my God, I would love to chat about it. But when I come back from that, my presence is even more required because it's like dad was away. So now that I'm back, I got to be fully here. And so trust in yourself that capacity will be there. And you're going to have 2 fucking years of sleepless nights and you're going to question, you're going to question the hell out of that decision. But like,
Yeah.
there's nothing better, man. There's nothing better. And I'm saying that from a place of, I have a 6-year-old, I have a one going on 2, and we have another one in the oven. So I'm completing my trifecta of sons
Yeah.
that are on the way.
Woo!
I got, manifestation is real. I've been talking about sacred sons and these triangles everywhere. And now I got 3 sons. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
So
amazing.
so be careful with what you're trying to manifest. But man, there's nothing better than at the end of the day, reading a book, being in the bathtub, putting it to bed. And like my son Noah said to me recently, he's like, Dad, when I grow up, I want to be a sacred son. I'm like, Noah, you already are, man. You're the most sacred of them all. You were my inspiration for this. He can't possibly perceive that, but he really was, man. He was my inspiration for all of this. So any good that I've been able to impact on brothers, to have an impact within Sacred Sons, even the name Sacred Sons, it came from my son Noah, and it came from Albert's son Cairo. You know what I'm saying? And it came from those little boys that are within each of us. That's why we named it that. It's not to be like we're perfect or we're better than anyone else. It's to humble ourselves, to say like we may be fathers, brothers, uncles, but we're all sons. And the fact that we're here on this time, on this earth at this time now, is sacred. And let's treat it that way.
Oh, I don't even know what to say. I just want to keep listening to you.
Oh yeah.
That's it. That's the medicine, man. I could just soak that up, and it makes me want to lead more. It makes me want to be a father. It makes me want to just you know expand my capacity
Yeah.
to carry.
It's there. It's
You know?
available, and it's like, I've been saying this piece, which is my family is my spiritual practice. So when I talk to Hannah, when I check in with the health and the vitality, and the grace of my family, or the amount of turbulence that can be happening at any one time, this is my only barometer. It's not about me anymore, man, and that's both terrifying and it's empowering to know
Yeah.
that it's not just
Yeah.
me out here being responsible for myself,
Hmm.
and that level of responsibility is the greatest fucking honor that you can
Yeah.
have. And so, like, yes, it's terrifying. It's supposed to be. What is valuable out there in the world? What's good that's not terrifying?
Uh-huh.
And so using the health of my family as my spiritual practice to inform, like, how I'm doing, where my attention's going. Hannah she's a great reflector. She's a great mirror for me. Sometimes a little too good, and it fucks with me too.
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
she can point out some of my blind spots as well. And so, like, really, like, and I'm not saying like it's always going to be pretty, but really being willing, to hold space for a family and use that as a gauge of your spiritual connection. As for my spiritual connection has been, it's been a beautiful gift, and it's been the biggest test.
Yeah. That hits home. That hits home big time, man. Like all of the responsibilities that I have in my life today were chosen very consciously. And although they require a certain amount of work, they're always worth it. There's Shalene and I kind of have a slogan for our relationship, and it's not always easy, but it's always worth it.
Yeah.
And that's the case for this podcast. It's the case for my coaching practice. All of these things that require something of me, and I'm responsible for them. And they I have to breathe life into these things in order for them to thrive.
Yeah.
My relationship, the podcast, my physical health, my diet, that stuff pays dividends to me. This conversation with you, like the many conversations I've had with other inspiring people
Yeah.
wouldn't exist. I wouldn't have been given that gift had I not taken on the load of this show. And my relationship with Shalina, it's like I feel it just adds every day more and more. I realize the value of this partnership.
Yeah.
And right now we've got some distance apart because we kind of have a place over on an island and we've got a place here, and we're sort of transitioning for the next year. And so my space away from her, I'm like, geez, I really love that woman. That
Mm.
relationship really does. It is nutritious for me,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's not always easy. Sometimes I'm like, I gotta get away from her, and like,
Oh yeah.
why am I in this thing? I regret my decision, and
uh,
and that's not the truth. The truth is, it's like the most nourishing thing, and bearing that load, that responsibility, has been such a gift. So you sold me, man. It's like, bring on the next level.
yeah. And and I'm not trying to sell anyone on I'm not trying to sell anyone on anything. And certainly not
Yeah.
like to rush out and have children. One of the most important things is who you have children with. Like, let's be real,
Yep.
because the beauty in my relationship with Hannah is that, like, when it gets hard, when shit gets really real, I know we can bounce back from that because we've done it time and time again. And building that resiliency within our relationship has been the teacher. Like I'm saying, the relationship is the teacher. And so what I'm here for is is literally to be here. And I want to say it like this. I never met either of my grandfathers. They both passed away before I was born, when my parents were fairly young, um, one by suicide and the other by a heart attack.
Mm.
And so, like, my vision, and like you were saying, as I turn 40, and like there must be this piece about longevity and what is my life meaning and what is it leading up to. I have a vision of myself with gray dreadlocks and a gray beard being a grandfather, because it's an experience that I didn't have. And so my mission is to be here. Be here. Be present. Be there for the little ones. Be there, like that grandfather medicine, that's my trajectory. Like that's truly what all this is after. All the health stuff, all of the business stuff, all the money, all of the things that we're trying to attain, all of the abundance. What is it all for? Right? To be here and to pass it on. And so like this is a vision that I have in my life that I've, there's like, if there's a, not that there's a piece of me missing, but if there's a thing that I would like to fulfill, that's what it is. It's like to
Mhm.
be that grandfather and to like step into that role. What is that going to be like, Ben?
It's a beautiful mission. I think I have a similar thing going on, because I do think about this often, and I lost one grandfather. My dad's dad died when he was like 18 years old, so I never met him. And then my mom's dad, I didn't look up to him.
Right.
He was a very suppressed, controlling, overbearing, angry man with a lot of sort of stuffed up anger. And I was scared of him. I didn't look up to him. I saw that my mom didn't like him. She was scared of him. And so in a sense, like I never had this experience of like an old wise man who I looked up to.
Yeah.
I had like a microsecond with my great grandfather, my mom's dad, uh, and I'm named after him,
Oh,
Grandpa
wow.
Ben, Grandpa Ben Gunn, and I remember the essence of him. I remember feeling that. I remember feeling this thing that we're talking about with him for a microsecond, and
Mm.
uh, the interesting piece is I just did a call with a woman who is like a dog intuitive, and she'll like tell you what your dog is thinking. And she can feel that stuff. We did a three-way call. Like Shalina's over there, I'm here, and she's telling us what our dog is
Oh.
thinking. And she, in the middle of it, she said, like, "Hey Ben, there's a spirit around you. There's a man in a military uniform. Like,
Mm.
do you know who that is?" And I was like, if I had to guess, it'd probably be like Grandpa Ben Gunn. I feel sort of like a connection to him in my heart. She was like, "That sounds right. Did he go to war?" I was like, "Yeah, he went to First World War."
Wow.
So I just found that out. Anyways, sidebar, but I feel that too, man. Like I feel that desire to be an old wise man who's still kind of like not cool, but like the young
Present.
ones
Present.
present, and
Just to
like
be here, bro.
the
Just
young
to be
ones,
here.
they feel you. You
Mm-hmm.
see them, they see you, and they can feel your wisdom. You're not. I have a desire to just be sort of the opposite of what my grandpa was, which is like heart open, you know, and yeah, present
Yeah.
for them, and to die
Listen.
that way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, man. Yeah. And I want to reflect to you, if you have time for sessions for psychics with your dog, you probably have capacity to start on like the calling the children. That's like, wow, you do have some time on your hands, bro. You got it. But
Yeah, we're
no,
getting it out of the way for now. We're just getting all that extra stuff done early. Hey?
yeah, what came up for me, I'm named Adam, right? So my narrative is like, oh, this starts with me.
Uh-huh.
This starts with me. I'm the first of my name and my family in this way. And my middle name is Charles, after my uncle who also died of a heart attack. So we have that in my family
Mm.
history. It's like, damn, I'm here just to not only to survive, but to be here, to be present for what is to come, right? And so a lot of men have this story. I never met my dad. I never met my grandfathers. They weren't around. They weren't here to show me or to teach me or to impart any amount of wisdom. What does a
Mm.
community and a culture look like that has grandfathers present, that has elders present, that has fathers present? And so as Sacred Sons, we say, like in our mission statement, we are here to return the father archetype to this planet.
Mm.
The father has been absent. The father has been pushed away. God is far away from us. We're all here struggling for God's approval. And we're here to say, like, no, man, the father is here now.
Mm.
At this time in our lifetime, bringing the present father back to this planet. It's as simple as that. If a man walks away from one of our gatherings, from any experience, or walks away from this podcast, and he becomes a little bit more present at home, that's a fucking huge win.
Yeah.
It's not about saving the world. I have no disillusions that this is about utopia. It's not about that. It's about those little wins along the way, being more present, putting the phone down, getting away from that habit or that addiction that you have, so that you
Yeah.
can be here, man, because the world needs you. If you're listening to this, listen, you know what I'm saying? If you're on any type of frequency that is vibrating with this, know that the world needs you. Know that that is enough and that you belong here. And it's time. It's time to step up. It's time to step into your fullness. And that can look any certain way. Like that, it doesn't have to look any way. It can just be whatever is real for you. And
Yeah.
like, so we need you, Ben. You know, I've accepted the call. My brother Albert and Jason have accepted this call as the truth.
Yeah.
That our role here, our being here is important. It is valuable. And I feel like so many brothers may be struggling just with that thought, like I'm not worthy.
Mhm.
And not to me, that's like super sad for me to hear that when men feel like they're not worthy of this life, they don't deserve
Yeah.
any of the blessings that they've been giving. No, those blessings were given to you for a reason, and now it's time to fulfill that. And let's find out what that is. And Sacred Sons
Uh-huh.
can really, really, really help you get there. And
Uh-huh.
so can the samurai, and so can, you know, all of these pieces. So wherever you are on this planet, whatever you actually resonate with, like find your tribe, find your community. That community needs you too.
Yeah.
There's brothers that are part of Sacred Sons community. They've got so many gifts. Like I could have never predicted, you know, the amount of gifts that these men bring to our community. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so like when we put all our gifts together, it's like, wow, we really formed this Voltron of the archetype of the awakened conscious man. And we're like, wow, like look at all this. And those gifts can range from the, you know, from the singing and from the martial arts, the fire spinning, the space holding, the facilitation.
Mm.
But it could also be the jester. It can also just be that brother who just has those one liners and has, you know, like whatever gifts you have, bring it in there. It's all welcome.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the sentiment that like every man can take up this responsibility to bring the father back, right? I mean,
Yes.
there's that the other men's community, every man, right?
Right.
They're,
I just
you
talked to
know,
Dan Doty recently. Yeah.
yeah, awesome. East Coast, bringing the East Coast vibes, you know, to men's work. Um, that like it doesn't matter where you're at in your life, you can take up this responsibility. You can take this on, you know. And I have to remind my men in my group and myself and the other leaders from time to time that like we can't just sit back. Like this work isn't, you don't go to a workshop and just like get taught the thing like you do in school. Like we're so used to that, right? I'm going to go to a
Exactly.
workshop and I'm going to sit there, I'm going to take some notes, and then I'm going to go home and forget most of it. You know, this work is like involve yourself, like actually make yourself a part of this, take on this responsibility, pay the money. You know, I don't know, I know you guys, it, it costs to go to your retreats, it may cost to go to your groups. Our groups have a nominal fee, and there's actually something special about that. Like, do you care enough
Yeah.
about this work that you're going to work during the day and then pay to be a part of this thing that's going to ask you to be a better man? And if you
Absolutely.
can get over that hurdle, you've got over one of the big hurdles already, right? Like, because the money is this like, it's like a glue that keeps you stuck to the work. Like, okay, I'm paying for it, so I better take it seriously. And so, okay, so what does that mean? What does it mean to take this work seriously? Um, so yeah, like every man can take on a piece of this. And like you said earlier, like each of us is shaping and creating culture all the time. And it can be hard to see it that way when you see culture as like 400 million people in, you know,
Right.
the upper part of North America. But you have a culture in your household, you
Yes.
have a culture in your group of friends, you have a
Yes.
culture at work, and you have an influence over that with how you are, with what you allow to occur as unconscious contracts of relating.
Yeah. And
And you can
so
shape that.
you can shape that. And this is another piece. It's not about perfection. It's not about becoming a superior man, right?
Uh-huh.
It's about actively participating in that creation of the cultures that you are a part of. because
Yeah.
for so many, they sit back and they, like I said, they outsource their discernment to and become unable to act in any way,
Hmm.
almost like life is just like dragging them along. And you know, I'm here to help remind you that like your participation is required here. We're not giving
Hmm.
out participation trophies, not like that, but like you have to actively like start getting in the goddamn game. You know what I'm saying? And so I'll say it like this. You know, our weekends that are regionally, we have a few coming up in September. They're called the Embodied Masculine Experience for that reason, because it's not in a book, it's not in some lecture. It's in the experience of feeling what it means to be embodied in your own authenticity. And you have to experience it. You know, I was shown this in a vision for myself, because when I got called to this, I was like so reluctant to it, like me, like men's work. No, fuck no. I'm not doing this. You know, I had those
Yeah.
feelings, and my feeling was largely around I haven't read all the books. I didn't do the David Data workshop. I didn't do the, you know, the Michael Moore, the Robert Me. I wasn't a part of that.
Right.
And what Spirit showed me is that my individual embodiment is enough. I'm enough.
Hmm.
You are enough. Like we together, we are enough. And so it's in like, I love what you said, because it's not about coming, getting the download, getting a tool and going home and like, cool, I got this now. It's about the active participation in this experience of life. And that is what these men are getting when they come to Sacred Sons. And yes, it does cost money to come, but we also have a really robust scholarship program, which we're committed to 1 in 5 of the men at every single one of our gatherings, every training, every leadership training, every council is scholarship fully. So if
Wow.
you, when you see pictures of our groups that are 100 men deep, know that 1 in every 5 of those men is a scholarship. Black, white, financial hardship, doesn't matter. If you need a scholarship, we got you. Like
Wow.
that's the that's the level of dedication that we're giving to this. And that's why it costs money for the other guys. And trust me, at the end of our weekends, nobody's complaining about what it cost. Or in like,
Yeah.
and I've even
Yeah.
had brothers, you know, brothers who can afford it. They're like helping guys get plane tickets to come out sometimes. It's like that's the
Yeah.
level of the network and the connection. And there's like, man, I'm one of the things I'm also proud of, as well as you know, having friends and all the things that I was talking about, is watching the businesses flourish, watching the partnerships happen,
Hmm.
watching the marriages stay together. Whew,
Yeah.
that's big work. That's big medicine for, you know, for someone in our position to be able to like sit back and watch these things happen. So when I see the brothers who may have never met or might look at like, I would never connect with that guy, and now they're on a path, they're doing a business together, or one guy's funding another guy's business, or you know, like there's all of these connections happening within our networks. That is just, it's so beautiful. It's mycelial. It's happening, like it's happening all the time now. And
Yeah.
like that's a beautiful thing to be a part of, truly.
100%. Yeah. One of my latest, wins looking at the space is some guys that I know who are connected through Brotherhood who they're creating an app to connect people, which is like everyone's like, is there really like more space for social media? But this is like, it's
Yeah.
almost like the anti social media because it's meant to connect people in person. And yeah, it's beautiful to watch what happens when you create a depth of relationship and trust in
Yeah.
people. It's amazing that you guys offer scholarship and that you're committed to inclusivity. Yeah, and across uh, income. Yeah, I was going to say possibilities, but like across what people are able to pay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, beautiful, man. So
And
yeah,
by the way, like those, a lot of those brothers who have been given scholarships, they give it back tenfold with their energy by showing up in the space. A lot of
yeah,
times those are the brothers who are bringing a lot of the like meat and potatoes and the culture of the weekends. Like
right.
it's like, in order to really be a brotherhood, we have to be about that level of inclusivity. And
Uh-huh.
that's beyond race. I mean, this is for veterans. And that, like I'm saying, like we're here for all men, and we call it our FAM scholarship, for all men scholarship.
Hmm.
And we mean that, man. And we need that level of diversity to have the hard conversations, to go to those places that are actually getting to the root of this like sickness, which we have called disconnection here.
Yep.
And so,
100%.
yeah.
It's if you do put the money down, it's the best money you've ever spent in your life.
Oh yeah. It's always good to invest in yourself.
100%. So, okay. So yeah, let's give everybody the full scope of everything that Sacred Sons does and where they can find it and how they can be a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. The best way to get connected with us is we also have an app. It's called the Brothership. So get on the Brothership, go to sacredsons.com, click on start here. And so you were speaking about social media, and there is room for more social media. And the reason is because there's a need for private communities. Um, this Facebook and Instagram stuff is great. It's also like an endless cycle. And
Mm-hmm.
so our app is dedicated to connection. Like men are coming into our app and then coming to experiences, or they're coming to experiences and then they're integrating on the app and staying connected that way. So our social media and our Brothership app is all designed in a way to continue and maintain those connections. So the Brothership is the best way to get started with Sacred Sons if you're like coming in for the first time. We also have, I'm going to look at my calendar here. We have 3 embodied masculine experiences coming up in September. If you're interested in this work, we have the Embodied Masculine Experience Pacific Northwest in Oregon. That's September 9th through 12th. If you're on the East Coast, we have the EMX Buffalo, New York. That's September 16th through 19th. And then the following week, we have the EMX Atlanta. That's September 23rd through 26th. So we have regions now throughout the United States where our men who are coming through our leadership training are hosting these EMX experiences. They're typically 30 to 40 men. One of the Sacred Sons Triad is typically at one, we split up and kind of do the events. But yeah, man, like if you're looking for community, if you're looking for tribe, this is the time. There's never been an easier time to get connected. It's really about, like I said earlier, you have the awareness, you understand the value, and then you have the willingness to step in. And I guarantee you, once you step in, you like once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you feel the medicine of brotherhood, you can't unfeel it. It's a real thing. It's a real thing, man.
Awesome invitation for men to step up and step into the work.
Let's go, men. It's time.
Let's go.
It was time for us to meet Ben. You know what I'm saying? And it's time for more men to be called into this work. There's never been a more important time, especially with all the divisiveness. If you are someone who's about unity and some of these other pieces that we're talking about, come and get with the Sacred Sons, get with the Samurai Brotherhood, find your tribe.
Right now.
Yes.
Right now. Don't wait for the pandemic to be over. Get into it right now.
Yeah, man.
Great, brother. Thank you, man, for taking the time to do this interview and to have a conversation with me and to get to know me. I've enjoyed getting to know you, and it's good to connect, man. I hope to meet you in person one day. I will surely come to one of your events as soon as I can.
Yeah, well, we're going to have we also do a convergence, which is our semi-annual big gathering of, that's where you see like the big groups of 100 men. And by now it's like a family reunion, man. You know, Traver Boehm, who you just interviewed, he comes out. Yeah. Michael Gay, some of these guys, Stefano Sifandos, Kevin Walton, these are all men who are a part of Sacred Sons, in big ways and in small ways. And we really come together. The next convergence is going to be the last weekend of October, and that one's going to be on the Oregon coast. More to come on that, but like, I would love to invite you into that space, Ben. You can hold a little space, you can get a little love, you get a little medicine,
Love to come.
That's how we do it.
That's the next convergence is going to be in October.
Correct.
Oh, if I can make it, if I'm allowed to cross the border, I'm coming, baby.
Yeah. Look for convergence. That's the tough thing with our Canadian brothers. Because we're eventually going to have a Canadian convergence, but maybe, with Ian McKenzie, there's a lot of Canadian brothers who we have up there. But yeah, look out for the next Sacred Sons Convergence, October 28th through 31st on the Oregon coast.
Sweet, man. Okay, we'll put the links in the bio, and let's connect again in a year or two, brother. I'm sure we're going to have a lot more to say next time we connect.
Yeah, I'll have you on the Sacred Sons podcast.
Love to, man.
Yeah, if you want to hear more, sorry, I know you're trying to wrap it up.
No,
if you want to hear more from me or Sacred Sons, You can always check into the Sacred Sons podcast. I'm doing weekly episodes. We have some phenomenal guests, a lot of inspiration. Like that's what I'm about on our show. It's like, it's about inspiration. It's about being authentic and telling real stories.
Adam Jackson, thank you.
Thank you,
All
brother.
the best.